Hello, everyone. This is Group 1, and we are going to be presenting the case study, The Misfits. We will begin our presentation with the introduction section presented by Jesse.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse. The case study that our group decided to analyze was The Misfit. We each had to read and analyze this case study and look for issues and problems that occurred within that. My job for the report was to introduce the case study to the audience while grabbing their attention in order to want to read it. I simply got this role by volunteering to do it. This role meant that I had to identify the issues and key problems that occurred within that case study. What I found from analyzing the case study is that it was about a group of well-educated students that failed to achieve their common goal, which was to attain an A+ on a major group project that they had to complete together. A key problem that was that a particular student named Judy, who was known to be very joyful and had the ability to make people laugh, kept distracting her group members and held back the group from staying on task and completing their work. The group members began to look at this as a negative factor for their group and began to ignore her. The big issue was that there was a huge lack of communication that she didn't know about, and they were being really cold with her. According to their journals, group members did not have any insight on their own behaviors nor their partners.
Thank you. Up next, we have the background section given by Anna.
Hello, my name is Anna, and I was trying to do the background information along with doing the relevant facts and most important issues on the case, the Misfit. So I started off by mentioning Judy, who's a funny and sociable person. She started off being with the joy of the class because she would make everyone laugh until when it came the time to complete a major project that the class was informed. Several of her classmates wanted to be with her, wanted to be included in the group, and she chose a good mix that included two men, two women in their group because she thought it was a good fit and could potentially benefit everyone in the group. Although at first they thought it was a great idea to have a good team by having a productive and fun experience for everyone by creating a self-imposed goal, which thought it was a good idea for them to be effective by turning in their project a week early to receive any feedback, to go back and fix it, to get an A. That was their goal on the project. But then it backfired several weeks later because of duties. It came down to a point where everyone in the group wanted to fire her from the group because of the way she was behaving. They blamed her since they did not end up reaching their goal because she had slowed them down, causing most of the group members, except for Missy, who was one of the fourth members of the group, to start communicating with her. They overall ended up receiving a B on their project by finishing it on time, but they could have turned it in sooner than they wanted to because of duty, and they wanted to get the instructor's feedback to revise it, and potentially they held duty responsible for it. So for the relevant facts, some facts on this case, on the study case semester, was the reason why Judy chose those particular people to work with was because it could benefit her by seeing that they were bright students. They followed the rules by doing what was right in class. The group members also thought it could benefit them by adding her to the group to make the task more enjoyable. The way she conducted the project and her team that led them to slow down by not meeting her self-imposed goal. And due to the most of the group members wanted to fire her not speak to her and blame her for all she caused. And then for the most important issues that were shown in the case study was that Misty, all along with the group members, were frustrated by her behavior and which pulled the group off task. And Judy was not serious, but she was constantly joking around and socializing and making sure everyone had a good time, but that showed a lack of seriousness in the overall project.
Thank you, Anna. Up next, we have the evaluation given by Jesse.
All right, so evaluation, there was things that worked in the case study in the group and things that didn't work. One of the things that worked for the group was that they all had a common goal. They all wanted to obtain an A+ for their major group project, and they also wanted to finish it at least a week before the deadline. The reason they wanted to do that was because they wanted to be able to get feedback from the professor and be able to edit and fix anything that they did wrong, or to make it a little better in order for them to obtain that A+. Another thing that they had was that each member of the group had positive strengths. Some had writing skills, others had connections to many resources. People like Judy had great social skills, and she made the working on the project more joyful, which is why a lot of other classmates wanted to have Judy in their own groups. And there was also people that had organizational skills. What didn't work was that they weren't able to use an appropriate problem solving method. Members were not able to communicate well with one another. And since they didn't interact with each other, they weren't able to appropriately support other members. Members also didn't understand that the problem they had. Judy was confused as to why certain group members had lack of interest in her. Other members thought that Judy was an airhead and did not understand that she just wanted them to have a good time and wanted to make working on the project fun and joyful. And the big problem was that nobody took any approaches to fix the issues. It actually says in the case study that in the students' journals, it revealed that none of them actually had insight into their own members' behavior or their own behavior during the semester. And that caused them to not understand what they did wrong in order for them to be able to obtain that common goal.
Thank you, Jesse. I will be presenting the proposed solutions that our group came up with. As you can see in the beginning, they had everything to succeed as a group, yet at the end, they were only able to get a B in their grade. That was because of a lack of communication. As Jesse mentioned, at the end, Misty was the bridge that was holding or communicating between Judy and the other group members. Solutions that we came up with was an effective communication that could have led for the group to be on same sides and figure out the issues that they both had with Judy's communication or social skills. An open communication would have been affected, as it would have led them to understand the behavior that they did not want to see from Judy or what was slowing them down. Effective communication would have included them reaching agreements within a group that would have been to deal with Judy's behavior, and as well to get the overall grade as better. They also needed to have an open and effective communication to talk about the behavior that they wanted to see from other members. Organization is something that is another proposal that we came up with, as they needed to organize the group's goals and make sure that everyone was on the same page that they all wanted. They also had to organize the group's strengths, as that they would make sure that everyone knew what strengths they had, including Judy's social strength, which was also her backfall or downgrade. They also needed to come up with a project plan, make sure that they knew when they wanted to turn in a project, and make sure that they had the amount due before they wanted to do each step. They also had to come up with engagement so that all the members were able to contribute. This means that they all were able to contribute to the solutions to the problem, and not just have them isolate the member like they did to Judy. If we look at the collaborative conflict management principles, we can see some steps that they could have used to come up with probable solutions. Number one would have been to separate the people from the problem. This also would have meant to separate their feelings from the people. If they felt near or towards the end that Judy was an airhead, they should have separated those emotions from their problem. They also had to focus on shared interests. They all had the interest of getting a high grade in the class and finishing before a due date. They all got to focus on that to make sure they came up with possible solutions. They also needed to come up with more options because their option was to isolate Judy and make sure that she would not pose a threat of derailing their progress any further of her because of her socializing. They also had to make decisions on the group's criteria. That would have meant that everyone was thought of while making these decisions for the solution and that the group's goals were kept in mind. I will also be discussing recommendations that our group came up with to obtain or accomplish the proposed solutions. Communication could have been obtained by having a group leader. A group leader would have conveyed a compelling vision of the cores and values of the group that they all needed to share. A group leader would have also managed the behavior that they wanted to see and that they did not want to see. They would have brought the issues of Judy to light and they would have been able to deal with them. If they did not want to have a group leader, they could have had a consistent communication. Talking more would have brought the group's values and understand everyone's perspective to light to make sure that everyone knew where they were at. They would understand what caused the issues and what they could have done to help. This would have been beneficial as it would have reduced the disengagement and the use of bridges like Misty. They also would have addressed the issue at its core. Another recommendations that we came up with was to have motivational strategies. This could have meant to set small goals, small achievable goals that everyone could meet. Uncompared, they had one goal, which was to finish the project a week before it was due to receive feedback. If they would have set small goals of weekly or daily, they could have seen where they were at and praised for the effectiveness of that. They also needed to praise the behavior that they wanted to see. If they would have praised behavior of Judy, of her not socializing as much, they would have seen her decrease social skills as she would feel that the group was accepting her. They also needed to have feedback from all of them so that they knew where everyone was at and cause more engagement within the group. They needed to make sure that everyone's perspective was met and make sure that they knew where they were at. Up next, we have the conclusion presented by Raphael.
In conclusion, The Misfit was a case study about 5 classmates who were assigned to work on a group project together. They had the common goal of getting a grade of an A+ and being able to turn in their project a week early to get feedback in order to use the feedback to better their project. The group was 5 members, and one of the most notable members was Judy, who was known for being social and funny and likable. The group members had a variety of skills and were well equipped to complete their project. However, the group eventually ran into problems as animosity grew towards Judy and everyone was frustrated with her behavior. She was very sociable and would always be making jokes and trying to get people to laugh and make sure they had a good time. And the rest of the group felt that this distracted from the group's task and goal, and they eventually became frustrated with her behavior. Because of this, only one group member would speak to Judy, and that was Misty. And Misty would also speak to the group on behalf of Judy. And Judy did not understand why she was being treated coldly, and the group failed to solve their frustrations with Judy's behavior. No one addressed anything to her, no one tried to talk to her about it.
As a result, the group failed to turn in their project early like they had planned, and they received a lower grade than expected. The group had major problems in communication, and this led to feelings of frustration and a poor atmosphere full of animosity, and the group was unable to get their work done.
Thank you, Rafael. And with that, thank you for listening to and watching our presentation.